Well, if it isn't Mr. the Fish again, coming back with another GT win. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another Tactical Debrief. As always, I'm Joshua Joshi Howard, and I'm joined by Wesley, Nemo the Fish, St. Hines.
Hello.
Hello. Nemo, we've had you on this channel so much at this point. I think you are the most common guest, to the point where you're getting close to as many appearances on this channel as all other guests combined.
Well,
Does that feel
that's a
special
pretty cool
to you?
step to have. It's hard just being so great at the I can't say that. I think I also say yes a lot, which helps.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just like talking guard, and I like doing cool things with guard. And as much as people on your server say they like to hear me talk, that's an excuse for me to come say hi and come talk.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like one of the big things that has been interesting, right, is because, some of the other people, like I could talk to Nassim or David Gaylord, John Leonard, the Tucker Rickies of the world, but a lot of them are also content creators. So I'm blessed in that this is also your content creation outlet for now. I remember you were talking about making your own YouTube channel at some point. If that happens, make sure you continue coming here afterwards, everyone.
I've very commonly said there's no reason for me to, because all the people who currently do stuff do it better than I'm interested in doing it.
That's fair.
I think you're a very prime example of that. I'm not admittedly the most interested in doing like weekly updates and meta things, and I think those are necessary things for a channel that I just don't have the energy to do right now. So
yeah, I mean, you could do like the Sam Pope thing where he'll like once a month bless us with Sam Popeisms. I think people would appreciate that too. But I also kind of am curious. I like to use the term micro celebrity, right? I've been a micro celebrity in League of Legends. I was I feel like I'm a micro celebrity in 40K. How does it feel in general to have kind of been, I don't know what your life was like before 40K, but how do you feel like it's been having been propelled to the very tippy top echelons of a game and being recognized for it?
It's not the craziest, I will say. Thankfully, our community is so small comparative to other communities that like no one knows who the hell I am, right? Like every time I go into like an Uber for like from like the airport to the Airbnb for the tournament a night before, and they're like, "What are you doing here?" And I'm like, "Listen, man, I'm gonna try to explain it, but do tell me to stop, right?"
Yeah.
So like outside of local game stores, that's really where it stops. It's kind of weird, but it's actually gotten less bad because I used to be pretty involved with collegiate League of Legends, and there was this horrible moment where my students found out that I played relatively competitive League of Legends, and it's like, and they were in that at the moment it was like right when like Tyler 1 was at his peak of being a League player, and so one of them found out more specifically because my league tag is Dr. St. Hines, which is my name. And they were like, "Hey, I was watching Tyler 1's stream and I saw someone with your name playing against him." And I had to be like, "Oh God, oh no, here we go."
That is very funny.
Yeah, so that was the worst, and then it's weirdly gotten better, but
I'm actually really curious because I kind of showed off. There's a couple people, because obviously I have this shirt. Is this a shirt you recognize?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have one of these back in the day?
No, I don't. I got heavily into Collegiate League right in the middle of COVID.
Okay. That is, this is a little bit older than that.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
So I recognize it, but I think I traveled to a total of like 5 tournaments period across the whole like 4 years. So
fair enough. Well, anyway, with that, I know I kind of want to take an opportunity, right? Because I've seen you talking to me and some other people about the interactions with the public that you've had, in particular in places like Reddit. Is there anything you kind of want to say about that? I do have a rant as well I can go on, but I'm curious for your thoughts there first.
It's kind of weird. So I've worked really hard to detach myself from the seriousness of the things that we like talk about as a whole.
Yeah.
But I think it's very interesting, this duality that we kind of have that exists online as a whole, with the idea that there's like this super like fickle light switch that's just like stuck right in between off and on. and one is like, we don't care, it is what it is, very chill vibes, and the other is commit domestic terrorism, right? and everyone on Reddit is just like, they're just like throwing their hand at the wall, and whichever one it lands on is what it's going to be for that day. And it's like, come on, man, because I've talked about it a bit in some of the earlier interviews I've had, but I had when I had a panic attack on stream at Las Vegas Open in January of 25. I was getting like legit death threats from people on Reddit, right? And it's a game, man. It's a game. And so obviously we all have opinions. We all have ideas on how the game should work. Is Guard struggling? 100%. Is it true that 40K is a relatively non-competitive, low-price game, and so your lower elo player should be catered to a little bit more than your higher level player? Also probably true. But the facets that we go about to do that matter a lot. Right? There's always abilities to like email. There's always abilities to talk to people who know people, right? I think Richard has from Art of War has gone on several facets saying, hey, if you have genuine opinions on how to fix this, let me know and I'll pass it along. But the reality is that it just makes people and communities look horrible when they get associated with this idea of, we're flicking the light switch up and choosing to light everything on fire.
Yeah.
And so that's all to say for the Reddit people watching. I do actually sympathize quite a bit. I was myself very upset when I saw the MFM, because I have gone on like honestly like 4+ even on your interviews on your channel of saying that I really wish Recon got nerfed. I really think it's unfair for our battle line to get nerfed, because the reality is our battle line spamming detachments are what are doing well, not our battle line and our non-battle line spamming detachments. And so when you take this route that we've seen, you see that Guard becomes a one build army, right? Both the builds that won this last weekend and have been doing well are builds that skew to a very specific point. And so all around, I mean, it's not a healthy state of balance. And I want to see that change, but like in the same way that like I can message people I know and be like, hey, can you please pass my thoughts and prayers along, right? That's the healthier way to do it, rather than make everyone feel like Guard's this community where, we're deciding to go to war, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, I empathize with that a lot, right? Like one of the discussions I've been seeing a lot in my Discord is how certain rules interact, and like one of them that I've seen people get very passionate about, including myself, is whether or not Yarick's order splash works inside a Chimera, right? Because there's a single sentence that says like you can give an order within 12 inches of this model, and the question then becomes like, is that a restriction? Do you have to do that within 12 inches of the Yarick model, or is that just, hey, you can do this farther instead of only at 6 inches like it normally works with the voice of command? And people are getting very passionate about this, right? And there's like other rules. I think the Cadian Recon Vox Beacon, whether or not it disappears, people are getting very passionate about this one as well. But the answer is, guys, it's a new edition. It's a new data. They're new data sheets. Don't go online and get mad. Send an email to 40kfaq@gwplc, and hopefully we'll get an answer to it, right? Like, I don't have the answers. I can give you my opinion about a lot of things, but in general,
not only that, but like in the TO, like I did the thing. Oh fuck. Oh god, it's this. There we go. In the TO meeting notes that like got leaked from the NDA meeting early on, there literally was a thing that said, if things look broken, like just abuse them. Because the quickest way for GW to genuinely fix things and make sure all the rules and intent are clear is for them to know it's a misinterpretation, right?
Yeah.
Honestly, the best part of this weekend about the Vox Relay token is, come the MFM, we're going to know who's right, because we've talked so much about it that GW's basically forced to tell us who's correct, right? And we'll know in a week when that happens. Same with Yarick, same with engaging out of combat, same with heavy and plunging fire, right? You talk about it enough, you abuse it enough, and it's not like the greatest way to do it, but it's a really good way to just be like, hey, GW, I'm here, please fix this or I'm going to keep doing it, right?
Yeah.
So it works.
Yeah. I just put a moratorium is like, hey, send messages to the people who can do something about it. Unfortunately, we're not those people. If you send it to us, we are simply going to send an email to Games Workshop anyway. So like, we can do that for you, but that's an entire industry built around doing things for other people. The one other thing I want to say before we can start talking about the list and the event they actually went to is, of course, guys, like there's never been a perfect 40k game played. People make mistakes. People misread rules all the time. Give each other some grace, especially in the new edition. I guarantee that there are things that I've been playing with where I missed a comma here and it changes the way that the rule interacts. Just it happens. Top players, there are top players who are bullies and cheats, and I incapable of naming them. I'm not going to do that on this stream, but like the majority of us are doing this because we love the game and we happen to be good at it, right? It's like it's not cheating. I guarantee. Again, don't go naming them in the comments. It's not what this is about. But give us a little bit of grace. We're doing our best. Being on stream is stressful. If you've never been on camera like that, here's the thing: those lights are fucking hot. Right? Something that you maybe don't think about, like when you're watching like a stream from other people. A lot of the top streams like War Games Live or Games Workshop, they have a lot of bright lights in order to make things look good. And if you're not used to it, and there's a lot of heat and you get uncomfortable very quickly. Any further thoughts before we start talking about?
I legit kicked Joe's camera like 8 times. I felt so bad.
Yeah.
I was gonna say the part about that always feels bad too is we're also always drawn to the things that are done wrong advantageously as opposed to wrong disadvantageously. Yeah. Which I get one is more severe, but like it makes me sad that people are so drawn to this Tanglefoot thing that we'll probably talk about, because anyone who knows me knows that I have cheated against myself infinitely more than for myself. For just like the quick fun one that I always love to talk about, I played 4 separate tournaments last year, down hundreds of points of units without realizing it. Like I went to a tournament, played 1,800 points, played 1,900 points for like the whole day and just didn't realize. I have 2 GT wins when knights were limitedly a little strong, where I played the whole tournament with all of my with Canis hitting on 3s and with all of my knights not getting the bonus wounds that they got. I just didn't realize that happened. I just thought they went cheaper. You know?
Yeah. I've definitely you've talked about this on stream a couple of times. Like when we were, the one I remember is when Bridgehead, you were playing with the Aegis defense line, and I was reading your list to you, and you're like, did you say I had Aquilons in this list?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh.
So it happened at BFS too. I was like looking through my list, and I was like, oh shit, that's another unit of Krieg. I didn't realize that's in there. And and likewise, I played like 8. It wasn't until like game 9 of the 10 I've played at tournaments recently. But I was like, someone asked me, they're like, does the fire coordinator have a different save? And I'm like, oh shoot, you're right. Maybe he has a 4-up. And so I pull up my app, and I'm like, oh no, just the whole squad has a 4-up, and I've just been playing it as 5-ups for the last like 9 games. Woo-hoo. It is what it is.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's just a game where like we just have to memorize a lot of stuff in order to make things go fast, especially with the kinds of armies that you have been playing. Let's go ahead and talk about the list and the event that you went to, and then we'll close out by talking a little bit about the art of war drama, shall we say. So Nemo, do you have your list ready to go from the Western Wisconsin Wargaming Weekend W4?
Yeah, I do.
All right.
Sorry, I'm also realizing I had scare gas grenades in this list.
I mean, look, I've had that in a couple of recon lists. It just doesn't come up.
No, it doesn't. No, the whole game unstreamed. Nah, wasn't there.
Wasn't there? Yeah.
So we'll start off with the important thing, which is a link to the Reddit thread, and then the list title being, thank God there's room for one more nerf before WTC, because right now I'm really worried that there's going to be too much guard at WTC, and quite frankly, I'm hoping that there's maybe 1 or 2, and this weekend will allow that to happen when the next nerf comes in.
Perfect.
But it's Recon Element. Recon has changed in a lot of ways. We'll probably talk about those in a little bit. But the base of the shell is it's 127-man Cadian brick that has 20 Cadians with a double plasma gun command squad, a Cadian Castellan, and an Ogryn Bodyguard. The Ogryn Bodyguard was built in this list with the idea of attached to the Cadians always, although notably he doesn't have to. He has the old ruling, so he joins when we walk up to the table. I feel like he joins Scions on open board sweeping engagement Dawn of War maps, but otherwise he's Cadians always. Talking about Scions, we then have two squads of 1 by 15, so 10 Scions with a 5-man command squad of Scions. This is just a generic bread and butter damage unit. They make use of plunging fire really well. They make use of the fact that cover is really bad for Cadians really well. And so basically you're just playing about 10 less Cadians in your Cadian bricks that you can have +2 to hit. They were just like the MVPs this weekend. And another thing notable to talk about is they are 2 hotshot volley guns in the Scions and 2 plasma guns instead of the usual 2 plasma, 2 melta. We'll talk about it later in the list, but I have quite a bit of anti-tank, and so my Scions were definitely kitted with the idea of being focused on killing marine bricks and bigger units. Then we have the kind of the bread and butter order package that ties the list together. That's going to be Gaunt, Ursula Creed, and Lord Marshal Dreir. Gaunt, and Ursula have always been in the list. Ursula is a comically undercosted character compared to anything else in Guard for what she does. And same thing with the Ghost. The ability to swap 2 orders has been amazing, giving 2 guys move, moving them forward, swapping out the orders. And then Dreir has recently made the cut as just this awesome model. At 75 points, he is officially the cheapest point per order model in the game. So he's incredibly efficient in that regard. He's also weirdly punchy at a 75 point breakpoint. Like he will just kill like 5 to 6 demonettes or other equivalent models. And then we get into the chaff that fills out the list. That's going to be 120 brick of Krieg to hold the expansion, 3 Cadian Recon squads to give those Vox Relay tokens for that solo order package, and also just because they're insanely undercosted. And then we got 2 units of engineers, 1 scout sentinel, and then 6 total Lascannon teams, 3 Catachan, 3 Krieg. I've been debating the Cadian ones. I will say that for people who are curious. But the Catachans have the best offensive datasheet rule, and the Krieg have the best defensive datasheet rule. The Cadians are a nice deterrent rule, right? The 4-up Overwatch is kind of cute. But the Krieg are just so efficient, but they used to be 75 points. And now that they are cheaper than the other teams, they are just so good. And so they've been making every list. Yeah. But the core of the shell is really simple. We are like 20 unit drops, I want to say, after attaching characters. It's a lot of drops. And so it's a list that's just built to do maximum actions, maximum board control. And you just put a bunch of Lascannons down on the long lanes and go, hey man, if you walk forward, I am going to kill you. And you just slowly trade with your opponent. You don't pressure them. You just slowly trade until you get about a 200 to 300 point lead of material on them. And then you have the advantage to just send it into them, kill them, win the game. And so it's a lot more, it's a lot in the same facet of old Recon. It's a list that's meant to bleed people. It's a list that's meant to win the attrition game. Because current 11th edition, for those who have hopefully gotten a few reps into it at this point, is very much so anyone who makes it to turn 5 is going to score 80 points. That's just going to happen. And usually that number will be higher. And so Recon's whole goal is, I'm good at scoring. Let's make it to turn 5. And let's get 100 points, right? That was the old mantra in 10th edition. I'm going to get 100. Can you? And this list is just built to follow that exact same philosophy.
Yeah. Yeah, I do agree in general. Like, if you get to turn 5, unless you're tabling people, the games are very high scoring and are oftentimes relatively close, especially in teams environments, from what I've been saying. But I do want to take a couple of minutes to talk about a couple of the interesting interactions that you have here. So the first one, obviously, let's talk about the Cadian Recon. So for anybody who's watching, a lot of the competitive scene is currently under the assumption that the Vox Beacon persists after the Cadian Recon unit actually dies, because it just says you set it up, and even though the war gear is gone, the token is not the war gear. So, you know, that might change in the near future. Nemo is saying that they're going to be practicing some games with, you know, assuming it disappears. We'll kind of go from there and kind of figure out exactly what's going on. But what does the Recon bodies do? And tell me more about why the Vox Beacon is so good.
Oh boy, the Recon bodies. Okay, gang. I know like 99% of us are going to be Guard players here, but what if I told you for 5 whole points, your Cadians would lose sticky, but they would get infiltrate, stealth, the smoke keyword. They would pick up an extra special weapon, assault on over half their guns, sticky orders, and the ability to put master boxes on your officers. Woo-hoo! For 5 whole points. Wow. So they're insane. They're just insane in terms of point efficiency within guard. It's comically good, especially in recon. The stealth keyword becomes amazing because it means you never have to worry about positioning. They are just 4-up save dudes.
Yeah.
Because for what's worth, we haven't talked about it. Recon's detachment rule is everyone always has cover, and if you have cover for any other reason, your armor save improves. And so if you have stealth, you have cover, and so they will just always be +1 save. And the other thing about them that's really cool is they have a Vox Relay token that says at the start of the battle you set up anywhere on the table, and every time an officer in your army issues an order, it can issue that order to any infantry unit within 6 inches of a token. And the other really important thing about this token that is very non-standard is in order for your opponent to get rid of it, they have to end a move. They have to end any phase within 1 inch of the token. The 1 inch here is really relevant because every other token in the game says 3 inches. This is important because ruins are 3 inches tall. And so your opponent, if we're talking like subterranean assault Tyranids or any of those other tokens, your opponent could go to the bottom floor of a ruin if you were on the first floor and remove the token. And we don't have to do that. So what you do is, all of your guys are going to be playing the objective game. So you want the tokens in your objectives anyways. And so they just go on the second story of all the ruins. And your opponent, it's incredibly inconvenient for anyone to get rid of them outside of like a high charge roll against something that's in a ruin. And the other thing about them that is really nice is they allow the ghosts and other officers, before I go to that tangent also, you also lose close to 0 of your order range, because if you're familiar with a 3, 4, 5 triangle, you do have to measure your distances diagonally, not horizontally, if you do put them on the second story. But in total, you lose about 0.8 to like 1 inch, depending on the size of the ruin. And honestly, 5.2 to 5 inches is always going to be enough for that 6-inch bubble to hit what it needs. And the other thing they do really well is it's not command phase locked. The ability is just when an officer issues an order, they can issue to anything within the token. And so when you're doing you're putting your Scions on the table, or you're moving your units with move forward, as long as one of them ends up within 6 inches of that token, when the ghosts up, down come down and reorder, they don't have to be near the units that are going to reorder. And so there's a lot of times, even on the stream game, where the Scions, push out into the center, one Scion toes back to be within 6 of the token, the ghosts come down to shoot something completely opposite and then give them the double order so that they can go kill something. It's an amazing interaction. It's honestly a data sheet ability that guard really needs in the current order economy, where spamming Cadian bricks doesn't really feel that strong. It's just good. It is just good.
Yeah. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. I've had a couple of people ask me about like the Cadian Recon like bodies in the past, and I've told them, look, for 80 points and stealth, they are elite at fucking standing places and doing nothing while they're there, right? But like standing in the right places can be pretty darn good. And then you also get the beacon and all this other cool stuff. Where do you tend to place your beacons? Because my first one has usually gone pretty darn close, like somewhere in my natural, typically. But I'm curious where the second and third ones are usually going.
So let's see how well I can do this in my head really quick. So game 1, it was natural, center objective, right in front of my scouting ruin that was going to lead towards my opponent's natural. Game 2, it was the exact same thing. Game 3, same thing. So it's seeming like there's a pattern. So game 4, I did one near my opponent's, like right outside my opponent's natural, and that was just because I wanted them to have to walk forward. Game 4, I played against 13 land speeders and a storm raven, and I was like, well, I don't want to be the guy to engage first, so I did put one of the tokens very disrespectfully in the open, because I was like, either I'm going to be standing here when I'm shoving you and I'm going to want the order, or you're going to put your guys here and it's going to cause the game to accelerate, which is what I wanted. But usually always my natural, the center objective on the second story. And then the third one commonly just goes wherever your scouts are going to go to attack the expansion.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Because like one of the big things I actually looked while you were talking about it, because it does say within 1 inch and not within 1 inch horizontally, which I think
Yeah.
may be the change that they make. You know, now that people are more aware of it, they might end up changing because of you.
Yeah.
Which does mean that, you know, there's a couple of vehicles that are probably tall enough that can go underneath, but because they're frame measuring, but everything else has to go to the top.
To my knowledge, the measurements in the core rules do say you measure from the bottom of the model. They did
Even for
actually change
frame?
that. I could be wrong. Someone,
Okay.
if I am wrong, no one crucify me. But when I was explaining it to Curtis at ATC, he went, "Huh." And then his opponent literally asked him that, and he's like, "No, yeah, the token's invulnerable." And he did mention they're probably going to add that to the FAQ. So you know, it is what it is.
Yeah.
But to my knowledge, you measure from the bottom of your model when determining measurements now.
Fascinating. I would need to reread that one. I don't know that one off the top of my head.
I haven't read it myself, so if I am wrong and I'm an idiot, someone just let me know. But like,
Well, what if the bottom of my model is like lofted off because I have treads with the
Have you considered that I did a really cool kit bash and my base is 4 inches off the floor?
Oh boy,
man.
that's a lot of fun stuff. So yeah, it does sound like the basic game plan of Recon has not changed that much, right? The basic game plan of 10th edition Recon was, you know, turns 1 and 2 felt fairly close, but you would bleed slower than your opponent because they would underestimate how much they needed to kill you, and then in turn 3 you'd run at them, and then they would not have enough to kill you after that point.
Yeah.
The next big thing I kind of want to talk about, of course, is the heavy weapons teams, because I feel like a lot of the rest of the piece. Oh, we'll talk about heavy weapons teams, and we'll talk about Dreir a little bit. Heavy weapons teams, right? So this one might be on me because I have mentioned in several of my videos at this point about the heavy and the plunging fire interaction. How often does this interaction actually come up for you?
Not a lot, really. So what happens, because usually I'll set it up and I'll be very transparent with my opponent. I'll set it up and be like, "Hey, I'm set up to walk up this ruin, get both." And just every time, I've been clear to my opponent about it ahead of time, and so they do the thing any obvious player would do, which is I'm just not going to stand in that firing lane, right? So it doesn't come up. But it was funny because it originally started because a lot of terrain is not 3 inches tall. It just isn't. Obviously you guys have your own terrain sets to look at, your own stores and everything. But where I play, we have a lot of like that WTC type stuff where it's like 2.7, 5.4. And so I was just, it was just a simple question. It was, hey, the ruins aren't 3 inches tall. How high would you like us to play them as, right? And obviously the go-to is 3 inches because that's what it says in the rules. And so if you are treating it as 3 inches tall, you get both. I imagine this is a really simple fix, right? Just make it 3.1 or make it whatever it is. But even on the official GW terrain, it's built to be exactly 3 inches tall. Yeah. So this isn't like the terrain at my local game store is horrible and I'm getting rules advantages out of it. The official terrain is also exactly supposed to be 3 inches. So you're able to do this also on GW terrain. And the other thing that's really cool about it is I'm not putting 18 bases on the upper floor. I don't know who's hearing this part either. Like yes, guys, I know Catachans are on 60s. Believe me, I have weapon teams that are not on 60s.
Yeah, you have them on fucking cardboard.
Yeah, it's great. Actually, it was graph paper.
Oh, my bad.
So, but the reality is, right, is that the play style that you're setting up here is I want you to trade with me because my army has more units than you. I kill you back. I set up another unit. You kill me. We do this back and forth. And the Krieg heavy weapon teams are just so good at just either deploying on top of a ruin and not having to move at all, just getting both from the beginning, or and by the way, again, we're only talking 1 to 2 teams, not the whole team. And just going, hey, here I am. I have plunging fire. I have take aim. I have a shoot on death. If you kill me, I'm going to kill you back, right? It just helps with that trading game plan and accelerating it.
Yeah.
But the reality is the firing lines are easy. The models move 4 to 6 inches. If you're transparent with your opponent, which you should be, about setting it up and being clear about it, any reasonable opponent's just not going to let it happen. It's so easy to stop.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, the next thing that I kind of wanted to talk about was the Catachan part of it, right? Because obviously the Krieg heavy weapons teams, they move 4 inches or 7 inches. If you move them, that's not very far, right? They are relatively stationary.
Yeah.
But the Catachan ones, they scout 6, they move 6, they're OC2, and they can move 9 with move, move, move. Let's imagine that you're playing in something that doesn't have any vehicles, or like any elite infantry. The Lascannons aren't super useful. What is the backup game plan for the Catachan heavy weapons teams?
Oh, those things they're bananas, dude. It doesn't matter. They're shooting infantry every time. I mean, it's just like they are just so fast. And it's part of the reason why this list I've been liking so much is there's all three of the Catachan Team Scout, the Engineer Scout, the Scout Sentinel Scouts, the Recon Squads have Infiltrate, Ghosts have Infiltrate, both the Scion Squads Deep Strike. There is just, I did it again. There is so much ability for the for literally like 1,700 points of this army to be 9 inches away from your opponent's DZ, just like top of 2. Yeah. It's amazing. And the other thing is the Catachan teams they're not playing aggressively or they're not playing for the ruins because the ability to just go deploy on that edge of my DZ, scout 6, move 3, shoot something, and just kill it is awesome. I know the question you were trying to get me to say is they're just 9 OC on a point half the time. But the real reality, the real reality is they just forced your opponent to trade. They just walk forward and go, hey, I'm going to do an action. I'm on the center objective. Kill me. The reality is you have 18 Lascannons, and when they're needed, they're really good at just being a front line. Not at this GT, but I had a game into Green Tide Orcs, and obviously 18 Lascannons are horrible into Green Tide Orcs. But you know what's really good at just forming a wall of bodies? 18 50mm plus bases, right? And so it was exactly that. We just played Crucible of Battle, and 12 of the Lascannons just formed a full wall going across the whole map line, and just going, hey man, you're killing Lascannons before you're killing anything real.
Yeah.
They're really good at that.
Yeah, I think this is something that players like you and also like Tucker are really good at, is just understanding the using bases on the board. It's just something that I think a lot of players could really improve at. It's something that I only think about when you bring it up first. It's kind of the way that I'll put it.
I see.
But that's really cool. I think when you were talking about it was Bridgehead versus Legion of Excess, and you're like, yeah, if you just put like a string of 20 Krieg in front of them, they can charge 3 units of demonettes into it, but they have to charge that, right? And it is a really big thing that sometimes when I'm playing, I'll think about like, I watched Nemo do this to a Huron's Marauders player, and they instantly lost the game, so maybe I should do the same thing. The last one, let's talk about Dreir a little bit. You said he's very cheap for orders. He was generally considered unplayably bad before. What has changed about him, and what is he doing in your games?
So Dreir has, in essence, he has effectively gotten 45 points cheaper, 50 points cheaper. Because the reality is, right, the old Recon shell and the usual, and not even Recon, but like Grizzled when it comes to our infantry orders, it was a 20-man Cadian brick with character support as a forward-moving object, right? And basically what you're doing here is you can still play the Cadians, you can still play the Castellan, but you're basically swapping out that Cadian command squad to be Dreir, right? And so this allows you to play better elite infantry options that we have, like I've been considering, say, Aquilans or Scions or Engineers, and it lets you avoid having to pay the 25-point tax on Cadians, and it also lets you get the 25-point cut from him, right? Because a Cadian brick right now is 265 points for the whole 26 models, and Dreir is 75. And if Scions exist, I don't want to have to play more Cadian bricks than I can. And so he's cheap, he's efficient, and also notably, and this is like a Recon only thing, the upbeat hound strat is just bananas on him. It's so good. It's because again, he's just 3 more ghost orders. And so if you need a go turn, you can just pick up Dreir and it's 5 ghost order reswaps.
That's
and so
true.
The whole army the whole army gets move, the whole army shoves, and everyone still gets a combat order. Also, notably, if you need to, the uppy down puts you in strat reserves. It's not a forced comeback down. And so you can uppy down Dreir to save him for rapid ingress to swap 3 people to +1 save after you have your go turn. So he's just so efficient. He's so good.
That is not an interaction I had considered before.
Yeah. He's amazing.
Yeah.
He's so nice. I really love Dreir. He's one of my favorite painted models that I think I have in my guard army. And so finally getting to put him on the table makes me very happy.
Yeah.
He also hits weirdly good in melee. Again, not like 100+ point character good, right? But he's for 75 points. He feels like a 75-point melee unit, and guard doesn't have many things that can answer that question.
Yeah.
I played him a whole tournament thinking he hit on 3s because all guard characters hit on 3s. That man hits on 2s.
Let's go.
He's pretty good.
Yeah. Now, it does sound, though, that this character is incredibly enabled by the fact that the Cadian Recon team exists.
Oh, for sure. So that's one of the things I've been saying is I mean, obviously, if Dreir gets nerfed or the recon token doesn't work or something similar, it probably is going to be the reality that we're going to see like -1 Krieg brick, -1 Dreir, put a second Cadian brick in, right? It's not an end of the world change at all. Really doesn't hurt the list, but you can't be playing 6 teleporting orders when you don't actually get to teleport the order.
Yeah,
so
totally fair. Cool. I mean, that makes sense. If other people have other questions about the army or the list, we've spent a decent amount of time talking about it, but I know Nemo goes through and I've seen him answer your questions in the past. So drop them down in the comments below and we'll see how that goes. With that said, let's take a little bit of time to talk about the Recon Disposition, and then we can talk about the games a bit more. Recon Disposition is an interesting one because it requires a lot of orders. And one of the ones that I think a lot of people were very concerned about at the beginning was the Purge matchup for Recon, but I think a lot of people started to figure that one out a little bit more. What are the difficult matchups that you tend to have for the Recon Disposition with this?
So there's a lot of matchups, and as part, I actually really like Recon for a singles perspective. I think if your list is built for Recon with Recon in mind, it is one of the stronger dispositions in the game. So I'll go down the line really quick and walk through them. But the Recon mirror is very simple. It's hold 1 and a 7-point cleanse. That's it. Recon versus priority, they score points for doing actions in terrain. You score points for killing them off terrain while also being on the center objective, right? And that's the Recon playset entirely, right? I kill a unit, you give me a unit, I kill a unit. It's very good at that.
Yeah.
Recon versus disruption is the most comically unfair mission in the pack. I'd be really surprised if it doesn't get better for the disruption player. But like you basically score 5 points, so they have to do a cleanse that scores them, I want to say 3 points.
It's 2 or 4, depending on where it is, I think.
Thank you. Yeah, it's 2 if it's in their territory, 4 if it's in yours. And if you commit any type of move, an ingress move, a pile-in, a consolidate, a fallback move, the token goes away. Doesn't matter if you control the objective or not, it goes away. And you get 5 points for doing that. You also have a point-and-click action that scores you 4 points.
That guy, so, 4 points, please.
Yeah, it's like... It's like, okay, my engineers walk on your objective, grenade you point X, and they just scored me 13 points. And it's like, haha, it's just, it's so evil. And then the last 2, where it gets a little bit harder. I'm sorry, I should mention the reason the Recon one is so awesome is it's 7-point cleanses. It's fully based around objective control, making sure your opponent can't hold points and making it to turn 5. That's Recon in a nutshell. And then the priority one is usually priority favored, but the reality is you just score more points than they do. Your numbers are higher. And so again, as long as you play the game long, you're fine. The 2 where it gets weird, and this is more going to talk about like philosophy of scoring and why it's so important to make sure that you are calculating ahead of time that you're going to score your points or to at least denying your opponent their points, is Recon versus Take and Hold and Recon versus Purge are just like, oops, I scored 100. They're so comically easy to score. Recon versus Purge, if you do an action 3 times, you score 45 primary. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. You will get 45. And the purge one is very simple. If they kill 3 units in your army, they get 45 primary. Again, no ifs, ands, or buts. 45 primary. There's a little bit more to that, but it really is.
Yeah, you'd have to hold like your natural like twice or something. It's sure.
And it's bad.
Yeah.
And Recon versus Take and Hold is very similar. They have this condition where when you read it, you're like, wow, that's pretty hard. And then you see it on the table and you're like, who designed this? They get 3 points if a unit of theirs on an objective kills anything.
Oh,
and they also get 3 points if they kill anything of yours on an objective, which most of the time that just means, hey, if they killed an enemy unit, they score 3 points. They also get 4 points for every objective they hold, and they get 3 points for storm hostile objective. And so they just like score 10 points every turn, no questions asked. The only way to stop Take and Hold from getting 45 primary is either they go first and can't get end of game scoring, or you take them off the table. They will get 45 in almost every other scenario. The Recon side of it is easy depending on map, because it is a 6-point engage on all fronts. It's 3 points if you have 3 quarters, it's 6 points if you have 4, and then it's a hold 1, and that's it. It's scoreable turn 1. If you go first on this one, it's really nice because if, again, one of the conditions for Take and Hold not to get 45 is they have to have end of game scoring. And so if you get first, your infiltrators are up, it does mean you're usually starting your turn 1 with like 10 primary, which does mean you only have to get about 35 over the course of 4 turns as opposed to 45, which, again, they're both high numbers, but one's very reasonable.
Yeah.
And so the reality is all of those matchups, all those dispositions are, if you play 5 turns of Warhammer, you're going to get 100 points. You just are. And so the Recon element really supports this Recon playstyle because exactly that, right? It's I'm going to chill out. I'm going to wait till I get 2 to 4 cards built up, start working on just randomly scoring 15, 30 points every turn for 3 turns of the game, and you get to 100. The only important thing about the game is doing the same math for your opponent. You're going to get hit 100. If they score a few secondary cards for 2 or 3 points and they can't hit 100 anymore, you don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
And if it's true or they are going to hit 100, all you have to do is just make sure you're doing, if you can deny a point of primary, do so. And if you can deny kill secondaries, do so. It's actually pretty easy if you don't play the game to not let your opponent get things like assassinating, grievous blow, and all that other stuff.
Yeah, and you don't need to play every turn, which is one of the big things I've been finding about this edition is if you just like chill on turn, sometimes it's 2, sometimes it's 3, and you just go like, nope, I'm going to back out. I'll see you next turn. It works a lot.
It pisses me off. But in what is it? In Recon versus priority assets, you can max your primary without once leaving your natural. It's just if you put your entire army on your natural and you just long bomb kill the 1 unit your opponent's doing an action and terrain feature with, you'll beat them on primary.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with that, we do have some stuff I do want to talk about towards the end, but let's talk about the games a little bit. You obviously played 5 games. You won all of them. You got 5 100-point wins. Your opponent scored between 50 and 70 points every time. What are the interesting ones that you want to take us through a little bit?
The interesting ones.
It is a lot of marine It is actually all marine bodies.
I played a pretty diverse range of armies, but all of them were either Chaos or Adeptus Astartes.
Yeah.
So it was Blood Angels into
Take and Hold Blood Angels.
It was Take and Hold Blood Angels, followed by Ceramite Sentinel Take and Hold Ultras, followed by Hex Warp T-Sons, who were also Take and Hold, into Dark Angels, into Emperor's Children.
Yeah. Was it Dark Angels Recon?
It was.
Okay, yeah. I was a little surprised by that, but
Yeah, I think the other option is Disruption.
That's worse. Fair enough.
Yeah. So the big thing about these games is, and I'm going to lump the first 2 into this ballpark, is it's just the same thing where you hit a point with Recon where you are scoring your points and your opponent isn't. and there's no reason to press the advantage.
Mm.
Game 2 in particular, I played against Ceramite Sentinel Ultramarines on Dawn of War. This is a matchup where they have to hold objectives. I have to be in the corners. And it's Dawn of War, and so it's very easy for me to score my cards. And they are admittedly very greedy Ceramite build. It's double Repex, a Ballistus, 2 Victrix Honor Guard units, and then like 4 scoring units. Because all the Victrix Honor Guard units also have the full bells and whistle characters, Calgar, Cato, Titus. And so he has like 8 units, right? And we just hit a point where I have a Cadian Recon squad standing on the center, Ken is saying my natural, standing right outside his natural, and it's just your turn. And he doesn't want to poke a Repex out to kill them, so he says your turn, and I'm like, cool, man, your turn. Pass. Right?
Those are my favorite turns of all time, by the way. Is like all right, I will move this, score my card, your turn, sir.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? And I say this because a lot of my games started this way, where it's like, did my opponent make a mistake that is very punishable? Yes. Do I need to even try to do anything besides just punish that one mistake and move on? Not really. Like the EC game was, I think, a good example of this too, for if anyone's seen on stream. But my opponent gave me like 400 points to their army for about 160 of mine. And so I was like, well, I don't need to deny your expansion. I could, but this isn't teams. I don't need to. Yeah. And so I just killed the 4 units in front of me and passed turn. And it was kind of funny because 3 of my 5 opponents were like, didn't get 20. We did it. Got it, right? And in all 3 of those games, I was like, I could totally shove this board. I could just go right now, right? Yeah. And every time it's like, but this wins me the game. This will for sure win me the game, right? And it's a common thing I talk about in coaching a bit with people, is the idea that there's 5 turns of Warhammer, and if you play, you don't have to do everything on turn 1 and 2 because there's 3 more turns after, And I think it's very easy to get carried away with that in Guard, with the idea that like every tank needs to shoot, every guy needs to fire, I need to do my actions, everything has to come out and do something. And the reality is, if the position is good and your opponent has given you more material than they've taken from you, just reset the board, make them do it again, right? If you're in your DC, they're in theirs, they're down 400 points, you're down 300, you're in the exact same board state you were on turn 1, except now you have more points than them. If they do that again, it gets worse, you win, right? Obviously, there's heavy degrees to this, and someone's going to be like, well, actually, in my games, my opponent did, and yes, obviously there's exceptions. But all of these games, all of these Marine games were just like, I scored more points than my opponent did because they need to hold the center on take and hold to score points. And if you're not willing to stand on the center to score your points with me, I'm not incentivized to take your natural because I've already outscored you. Yeah. And so that's it.
Especially if you're already going to score 100 as well. If you're like, it is now only possible for you to score 44 primary, I win.
Yeah, if I'm scoring 10 points of primary a turn and you're scoring 4, why am I pushing you? I'm going to win. Yeah. And that was the first like 2 or 3 games. It was just chill out a little. A cool interaction, I guess, just as like a learning thing, was game 3 I played against Hex Warp and the robot detachment for T-Suns. I know a lot of people consider this to be the big bad for T-Suns. And what's important about this game that I think really swayed the game for some people is just tracking your opponent's command point usage and asking yourself what they can actually do. Because when you play against an army like T-Suns, for reference, my opponent was a not standard build of T-Suns, but it's still pretty good. It was 2 10-man Terminator bricks, 12 robots, and then just all scoring units. And so it was just like, oops, the 2 broken data sheets minus the defiler, and then scoring. And he, and T-Suns is really good at this. It's really good to lock yourself in decision paralysis because they can do everything. They have a free Overwatch. They have a free Heroic. They can move twice. They can Doom Bolt you. They have fallback shoot and charge. They have 6-inch deep strike. It's so many things. And the reality is they get 1 CP a turn, right? And you have to hit a point when you're going through decision making where you go, man, I can't do this play because they have this, and I also can't do this play because they have that. But the reality is they have one CP, and if they choose to do one of them, the other guy's gotta go.
Yeah.
And a really good example of this is my opponent gives me their 20 sots pretty far forward in the center objective, and they have 2 CP. And I'm very worried about rapid ingress. I'm very worried about an Overwatch. And so I just put one Scion brick right in front of the Terminators, outside of rapid fire, minus like 1 or 2 guys. So I'm getting rapid fire. They're only getting, a little bit. And then I also put Engineers right in front of a robot that I really need to kill. And my opponent, takes the Overwatch. They take the rapid. And they use both their command points. And the 27-man Cadian brick walks straight forward in front of both of the 2 Terminator bricks on an angle that neither of them can see each other, and it just charges all the Terminators, right? Because the reality is, if he has no CP, he can't fall back and shoot with A, he can't fall back and shoot with both of them. B, if he uses fall back and shoot, he can't ignore cover. And my army really likes to have that, right? And so it's like, the reality is there are some matchups where guard in particular, we have like so many things to play around because guard has a lot of fail states it has to worry about. If you lose your officers, the game gets sad. If you get tags, the game gets bad, right? Like all these things exist. And a lot of the time it's just saying, the reality is your opponent is playing the game with you. They deserve to get to play the game. They should get to do some things that are bad for you. And your job is to give them the least bad things and stop the important ones, right?
Yeah.
And in my case, if those Terminator bricks activate, I lose the game. And so my entire game plan was going, yeah, man, kill me. Yeah, man, do the thing. If your Terminators don't activate, I win. And so both, the Terminator, one of the Terminator units went down to like 5 models. The other one that wanted to fall back and shoot fails the battle shock. And my opponent just looks at me and goes, good game, man. He's like, I didn't see that play, I lose. And that's all you got to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I also think like one of the fun things that you're kind of pointing out there is, right, your opponent, T-Sons is a great example of they can do anything, but they can't do all of them, right? They have to pick, right? Magnus can only be in one place, right? You can't have Magnus in multiple places. He's got to do the one thing. He has to pick which of those units he's going to kill. And I was playing like a game with my buddy, and he's like, oh, I can overwatch that, and I can overwatch that, and I can overwatch that. And I'm like, brother, I understand. You are going to overwatch one of these things.
Yeah.
I have accepted that you're going to overwatch one of them. And then we kind of move on from there. But I think it is very useful to kind of keep in mind, because we generally have more units, we generally have more options. And that also means that there are more things that you can do incorrectly when there are more, a more dense decision tree to kind of come out with. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I felt a lot of my other Recon games have kind of gone before. Like you said, like the minus 10 dudes in your Scions in order to get like +2 to hit or whatever ends up coming up fairly often. So the playstyle hasn't actually changed that much. Have you been missing like Rough Riders at all? Or is it just...
Oh, every day I cry. Yeah, it's all good.
No more Mongies.
Those are... it might be in the background. I've been working on it recently, but yeah, it's right here. This is the little pile of all my Halo guys that have been damaged.
Yeah,
and I've been working on slowly repairing. Do I have a mongoose in here? I have my little Master Chief I'm working on.
Nice. Is that gonna be your Lord Solar?
Yeah, he's Lord
nice.
Solar.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, it's all just damaged in the box. But we've slowly been working on it. No more monkeys. Yeah, so 11th hurt guard in a lot of really weird ways, and Rough Riders are one of the ones that got hit by it. I guess to slightly further elaborate on it, there were 2 big changes to cover, right? You either were a army that had access to rerolls, modifiers to your hit roll, or a good ballistic skill, and or you weren't, right? And you either won or lost that coin flip based on how your army was, and then you were an army that had very middling AP, who now really cares that cover doesn't exist, or you were an army that had relatively high AP who doesn't care that cover no longer exists, right? And when you think about it, both of those things, a plus or a minus to your hit roll and a plus or a minus to your save roll, are both about 17%, right? And it's very interesting seeing the joint probability of that, about 25 to 30%, directly show up in the data slate, right? Thousand Suns goes up about 20% win rate, Guard goes down about 20% win rate, right? And so the reality is that's been rough. And so a lot of the units changed because of that. And Rough Riders are another thing in that category where it's like cover just inherently hurts them. They're good. I love them. But not being able to fight through your friend's base and not getting hidden are two things that frequently lead to only about 5 to 6 models ever colliding because they either died on the way in, or they just weren't able to make it into combat.
I don't know if you watched the video that I put out. I think it was the same day as the Art of War video, where like my title was "It's Not You," right? And like talked about like all the different ways like 11th edition has made Guard harder to play. And so maybe let's go ahead and jump into that because like I've gotten a little bit, people have been like ribbing me over this, which I think is funny, right? I have been in the public eye long enough that I can usually be like, yeah, like you don't have to agree with all of it, but I don't think I said anything that was untrue. But let's go ahead and talk about the fact that Art of War did recently put out a tier list where they said that Guard was A tier, and I obviously have a lot of opinions. We'll talk about them a little bit, but I'm curious, what was your initial reaction to seeing the video? Did you watch the video actually?
I did. Honestly, I did think it was funny. I personally really don't agree that Guard is A tier. I hate to say it, but I also don't think the 2 GTs this weekend support that either. And I think I know that the joke is like, he put his mouth as Guard is A tier XYZ, right? Gang, if we're being so for real right now, Folger top 4 Adepticon with agents. That doesn't change agents tier list, right? It just that's a bigger tournament. That's a way bigger tournament than the 2 random GTs Tucker and I did, right? And I think there's this huge misconception because what is it? It's like the top 1% of players win like 97% of tournaments or some shit, right? It's like the reality is the good players are just freakishly good at the game because it's a hobby-based game and there are people who have devoted a lot more than a hobby's worth of time to Warhammer. And they are just inherently very good players, right? And Tucker and I are both in that category. I really am of the opinion that although there is merit towards catering at the high level, especially with WTC coming up, I don't think a tier list should be based around the high level players, right? I think a tier list should be based around your average player because the reality is, the average player is who plays the game. There's like 200 players who people like actually will go to an event and be like, oh, that's the guy, he's gonna win, right? And everyone else, the thousands of players, are not that guy. Right. And so when you have the guy who has put, 15 years of his life into collecting Guard, really enjoying the army as it is, or whatever, maybe it's not Guard, but whatever army it is, and he's just getting his teeth kicked in. He knows he's a 3-2 player and he's struggling to even get a single win at a GT. And he gets told that it's, he's just bad at the game. Like,
that sucks.
Anyone would be upset hearing that. Right. And this is why it's important to talk about the healthy facets to it. I'm not going to say, honestly, I think both sides are wrong. I think the response of going, Lamau, we won, that sucks. It is like dishing it back, right? It is like the, you were toxic, I am too, and it's funny, right? It is funny, but it is like the wrong response. The reality is the community is heavily enraged with how their army's playing. They're not having a good time with it, and they're being told to just suck it up and be better, right? And it comes off as, a post to the entire Guard community when the reality is it's one mod on Reddit who made the post.
Yeah.
So both sides are weird, are wrong. And I get you want to. The intent behind the tier list was taken wrong, right?
Yeah.
So
I do want to talk about that a little bit, and then we can talk about the community again. One of the things that I think a lot of people like misinterpreted when they saw this tier list is Art of War is very much for the competitive scene, and they tend to talk about the game because they are, they are by and large exceptional players. And their tier list is this army capable of winning a GT? Right? Like if you give this to the best players, can it win a GT? And I think by that metric, absolutely. Guard is A tier by that metric. I agree. And I think, to to the point of what the tier list is, I do think your win and Tucker's win this last weekend do prove that if you give guard to phenomenal players, they can still have success with it. But to kind of go back to the other part of it, right? I think a lot of people got very incensed about the fact like we're at like a 35% win rate or whatever silly number it was. This last weekend was 42%. If we remove exactly you and Tucker, it's a 38% win rate this last weekend. Overall, we're sitting at like a 38 or 9%.
30, yeah.
Whatever the number is, it's bad, right? Depends on how your data collection works. But I also think I do kind of want to reach out to the community here, right? I understand, right? A lot of people, there's a certain part of my Discord, I call them just the blue names, right? People who have won GTs in 10th. There might be a couple in 9th, but definitely 10th and 11th edition. And the number of them that are still playing guard right now is very low, right? Some of them might be gaslighting us because WTC season is upon us, but in general, most of those people are not WTC players. They're not part of a national team, and so they don't care. And I know several of them from their national teams have been upfront with me and be like, yeah, I'm not playing guard right now. Like that stuff is hard. It is hard to make work. Can you make it work? Yes, but you really need a hyper specialist to like really get there. And I'm kind of curious, like, where do we go from here? You know, if you got to just like do the next data slate, the expectation is coming in about a week. What kind of things are you open to seeing it?
I've posted this a few points, and I'll give the disclaimer here in case either GW people or people who
if you
just,
don't
like,
want to speculate, you don't need to.
no, that's not what I'm saying. But
Yeah.
what I mean is, like, I actually do trust GW to a larger degree than the average person does. At the end of the day, you know, they're worried about something silly, broken, doing crazy things and doing horrible things, right? And a lot of what we're seeing at the start of 11th edition was a result of Recon being what it is, right? It was an army that never dropped a diff for in the hands of like 1 to 2 people. It was an army that won every single game it played pretty much ever, right? And when you look at the changes we got in the data slate, I mean, the points reflect it, right? But what was missed was something that isn't going to be possible for a data design team to figure out over the course of several games of internal testing, right? Which was the genuine impact that the cover change was going to have on armies in the game. And the real reality is if you don't have an order and your opponent has a -1 to hit strat and is in cover, you're hitting on 6s. I watched this really, really awesome game of one Lord Exultant tagging a Rogaldorn battle tank while being in cover, and then using the -1 to hit strat that Carnival has, and he was just in combat with the tank for like 3 straight battle rounds of the game because the tank just could not shoot itself out of combat.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the reality is, OC bombing is what Recon did really well, right? That's not a thing in the game anymore. Take and hold is the only disposition in the game that cares about holding more than one objective a turn, besides like a select few. And the other reality is, when it comes to spamming bodies on the table, I play Krieg because Krieg revive. They don't need a character support, right? You'll notice in all the lists I've ever written, I think there's only been a single time, if I've had a Cadian squad that hasn't had a leader attached to it, because Cadians are horrible. Cadians are like not good. But turns out when you have a 65-point unit that has 6 plasma shots, that's power fist and, you know, a revive, and another unit that has a power fist, a plasma shot, and sustained hits, fallback and shoot, and those two can join a unit to get all the abilities together, that becomes good. And the same thing is kind of true with Scions to a large degree, right? Scions are 10 points more than normal Scions, but they pick up an extra special weapon, a revive, and sustained hits. That's better. That's just better. And so I'd really like to see the barrier to entry for just playing the normal idiots be cheaper and the characters to go up.
Did you watch my video yesterday?
No, I have not.
Yeah.
But I think I'd like to see like the Castellan go up. I'd like to see command squads honestly stay about the same, but the points just move around a little, right? And I'd really like to see. I know everyone's so scared to hear 65-point battle line from like non-guard players, but I really do think Cadians at 65, 120 is totally okay.
As long as the characters are expensive.
Yeah, as long as the characters are expensive. But the other thing is, Recon was oppressive because you'd play 800 OC and you'd put 200 of it on every objective. And if I do that, you lose 3 points. If I did that in 10th edition, you would lose 15. Those are two wildly different metrics that have changed. Right? If you're worried about being out OC'd by an OC army, play Purge, play Priority, play something that does actions or kills things. You don't have to play the thing that holds objectives.
Yeah.
And the other note to that is, either top dogs need to get nerfed or guard vehicles do need to get buffed, because we have hit a point where I do think it is kind of comical how much Adorn costs. I for like the longest time have been a hater of Adorn. Everyone knows this. I don't think it's an efficient vehicle. Even when it was like 240 compared to a Repulsor Executioner, it's just worse in my opinion. I think a Repulsor Executioner with +1 to wound and full hit rerolls is so much better than Adorn that has +1 to hit. Turns out they just hit on the same number, but one gets 2 more rules. And like the fact that like we're pretending that paying, what is it, 295, 270, whatever the number is for a Dorn Tank Commander these days is like a reasonable number. I mean, dude, if you drop a unit of Aquilons from your list, your Dorn Tank Commander becomes a Baneblade. Like, come on, you know? It's like the nicest way, be so for real, right? And it's just, and the same thing's true with Lehman's, right? The fact that the Land Speeder is a data sheet and the Lehman Rust costs double what a Land Speeder costs, it's just comical. Would you rather have 2 Onslaught Gatling Cannons, 2 Multi-Meltas, 2 Missile Launchers, and then 2 Fire and Fades on a move 14-inch moving vehicle? Or would you rather have one little dude with a Battle Cannon? He's got +1 save, +2 toughness, but he's got -9 wounds and half the guns. They're the same cost.
Yeah.
And again, one gets rules, one doesn't. And I think it's really weird that the vehicles cost what they do. I personally think it'd be cool if the vehicle-esque spamming build of guard that's really struggling right now, that isn't infantry-focused guard, got points in the ballpark of probably like +1 Hellhounds or +2 Hippogriffs, right? Somewhere in the ballpark of about +120 to +140. And I think you could easily achieve that by just taking a clean 10 to 15 off most of the Lehman variants and Dorns, right? We're not talking like 30 points, 20 points. That is a lot. But like if you're a guy who wants to bring 6 Lehmans, a Hellhound, and 2 Dorns, and all of those got about 10 to 15 points cheaper, you do get another Hellhound in your list. And I think that's a relatively fair, appropriate buff.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think anybody who's not a guard player who's watching this instantly hears that and goes, alarm bells. But I think it is, guard has had a lot of general issues with our design philosophy and balance philosophy that has compounded upon it, that has made it, I mean, guard for a long time now has been a very top heavy faction, right? We've had, half dozen players, whatever, that have been having an incredible amount of success, and then the rest of the faction is getting like a 42% win rate, right? It's just been struggling. And so I think there's a lot of things that we can touch. I've got a couple people that I have gotten the ear of that I will hopefully be able to at least send my thoughts. I can't promise anything beyond that. I can send them my thoughts and prayers. But I think it has been interesting. So if you were to kind of bring this back, we're getting close to wrapping this up. If you were to put a guard in a tier list and define what the tier means, because I think that will be helpful for people, where would you put it?
Oof. Oh no, now I'm going to be the one who gets canceled.
I know.
No, it's horrible. You can't put the spotlight on me like that. So I think that, so when we had the 29% win rate that everyone was joking about, the average ELO player that was playing that weekend was about the 15-10 range.
Let me pull it up. I actually have this. So we had a 32% the July 4th weekend with a 15-10 average and a median of 1490.
Yeah. And so I think the reality is the average player is not doing good. And I think the fact that Tucker and I rose the win rate by, 6% by ourselves?
4% between the two of you.
4%, okay. Yeah. And the average ELO rose a little bit, but not a lot.
Well, also, the average this last weekend was 1554 compared to 1509.
So it rose a bit, not a lot, but I mean 40 points is a bit. And the win rate went up close to like 10%. I mean, not
about.
yeah, I think that's a very good sign that guard, when it was considered very good by people, it was like a 43% win rate at the high end. That's when you had all the guard players playing guard, Gus, JWR, Nas, myself, so on, so on.
Yeah.
And so to me, that reads that the degenerates play guard the way it's meant to be played, the best way that you can play guard, but it's not the way you want to play guard. That is, I don't believe that is A tier, I will say.
That's fair.
I think T-Sun's Marines in EC are just comically better than what Guard is doing right now. I'm very unconvinced that the Tucker that won this GT would beat John on Marines at this GT, right? And I think if Marines are A tier, Guard can't be A tier. I think, by the way, this isn't like a Guard is B tier, keep the rest of the tier list the same. This is like half the army. I think half the armies they rated A tier should go down to B. So I think that competitive level of Guard is probably B. And I think the very average player playing Guard is in that D to F tier. It's not as bad as Agents. I think Agents are just horrible. But I mean, I don't see how you can look at a 29% win rate for the average player and say the average player has anything better than a D tier in that detachment. So I mean, I keep mentioning it, but like for reference, everyone, right? I played against a tank guard list at ATC twice, and the second one had a Baneblade in it, right? And I have 10 Cadian Recon troopers on the center objective, and he goes, okay, I'm gonna pop full rerolls to hit for the 2 CP because I'm in Steelhammer. My Baneblade's gonna put everything into your Cadian Recon squad. Do you just want to pick him up? And I have to look at this man with a genuine straight face and go, I would like you to roll it, because I've used my -1 to hit strat, and he high rolls, he like significantly high rolls, and he barely kills the Cadian Recon squad troopers to the wound, right? We are talking 10 4-up save idiots in cover, and an entire Baneblade struggled to kill these with full hit rerolls. If you want to play the degenerate list, sure, it's playable. I'm very unconvinced the rest of it is playable.
Yeah, I do think that is a nuanced take at the very least. One of the big things that I always say is tier lists tell me more about the person making the tier list than they do about anything on the tier list, right? It's just, it's like, what do you value? What do you think is good? Like, it tells me more about that, which I think is always interesting.
I will also say in the same facet, I know I said earlier, but in my opinion, there's like a handful worth of armies that are in that SA tier category.
Yeah.
So I'm not pushing just Guard down to B. Like, I'm only viewing maybe 4 to 5 armies at S or A, and everybody else is in that B or C tier.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Again, I think Guard for the average player, like if people don't know by now, I am off Guard until the patch. It's just not been fun. I've been struggling with it, right? Like I have never, even when I was a brand new player, I have never had a worse win rate than I do right now with Guard. And it's frustrating, right? Like I'm enjoying playing the games, I'm enjoying hanging out with my friends, but feeling like I'm losing to people who I have legitimately never lost to before, it's not a good feeling. So I do know that the patch is coming soon, right? The expectation, I think they said this on Warhammer Community, is the 22nd or somewhere around there. So, guys, we have like another week. I don't know what the patch is going to bring. Hopefully it brings some changes. And honestly, we will see what it does to the rest of the army. I do not know if it's going to be heavy-handed across the board. I don't know if it's going to be light across the board. I hope we get a lot of FAQs. It's going to be fun. We are past the hour here a little bit, Wesley, but I'm having a good time. Is there anything else you want to talk about or any other hot takes you want to leave us with before we start to wrap it up?
Oh boy, hot takes.
Or anything else, I enjoy talking about it, so.
I think what do I think? That's the real take. I think we have learned a really important lesson in we are all a bunch of passionate autistic nerds, And it's okay to be passionate, and it's okay to be autistic, because that's just, it's part of who it is. I say that jokingly and lovingly, right?
This man scored a 90 on his rads. It's fine.
Yeah, right. There we go. But like, the reality is we're all just using this to decompress, de-stress, and have a good time, right? Everyone's allowed to have opinions. Everyone's allowed to have different versions of those opinions, and I think to prioritize your opinion to such a point that you start thinking like lesser of other people or devaluing their opinions to a almost like aggressive or slightly dehumanizing stance is very unhealthy. And you're not wrong for having those opinions and being passionate and feeling the way that you do as an individual, but you are wrong when it starts to damage the people around you and take away from the fact that this is a de-stressor for them just as much as it is for you.
Yeah.
I say this a lot with people on like Joshi servers and other spaces in general. But every time I'm asked to be on stream, there's like a coin I have to flip in my head about whether or not I'm willing to be on stream that day. And there's a lot of people who are like, no, Nemo, you want to see you on stream. We want to see you play, and we want to see you do these things. And the reality is we have created a subset of people that are so toxic towards how the game is meant to be played and done that I'm just not interested in it half the time. And we really don't have anyone to blame but ourselves when it comes to that mindset. It's really easy to see someone you've never interacted with or never gone with and been like, oh, this guy's horrible, he's an awful human being. And the reality is they're just playing a game, man. They're just trying to have a good time the same way you are.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think it's very good, right? We both have our haters. We have at least one hater in common, which has been very entertaining to the both of us. In general, though, we do appreciate you guys. There's a lot of you guys that give us a lot of love, that give us a lot of respect. I appreciate that immensely. But again, one of the big things, if you're upset at us because we did something wrong, the best thing to do is honestly like let us know directly. I don't read all the YouTube comments, partly because I've been getting a lot of them recently, and not all of them are very nice. So it's like, do I want to ruin my day? Because for every 9 of you that are like wonderful, there's like one of you that's like, oh, you're fucking stupid, and I'm not always able to like recognize that is the exception to the rule.
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind. The other big thing is the game is in turmoil right now. We cannot do anything about it. We can forward your feedback to the people, but the best thing that you can do, again, 40k FAQ at gwplc.com, and send them the questions. You usually will not get an answer. They usually will not respond, but if you do that, they will, and they see the same question over and over again from different people, they will know that they need to address it. So do that. Be nice to each other, right? We're all doing our best. None of us are making that much. Even Art of War is not making that much money off of their coaching, right? It just is what it is. Yeah. Nemo, it's been a pleasure as always having you on. WTC is coming up. Is there anything you want to say about that?
Regarding WTC, I am excited for sure. It's actually kind of weird, the degree to which like planning that goes into like a tier 1 nation and all that. And it's hard to not get overwhelmed with it, but it's very exciting to see a group of people who are taking teams like seriously to the degree that like a lot of our practice partners in USA have been. I have the most enjoyable time ever when I go to like casual team tournaments and just hanging out with people. And I have a slight hatred towards like best general on a 4th place team, and so I love the group I play with. I love my local group and all that, but I am very excited to be on a team that is really looking to like do their best, perform their best, and like put genuine time and energy into it.
And money. Don't forget that. It costs a lot to go to Europe.
God, dude, I know there was admittedly a no, I can't even jokingly say minor war, but there was a slight thing going on recently in U.S. political events that as a result has made flights a little expensive, and I really didn't enjoy my flight plus hotel being about $2,000. So, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it's my first time competing at that level, and hopefully not, being a mistake, hopefully doing my part. So
yeah. Well, we wish you all the best. Good luck with that. I think we're probably going to wrap it up here. It's been a good time. We talked a lot about things. Again, if you have questions about Nemo, the list, or the event, go ahead and throw them down in the comments below. Be respectful, please. Especially, he knows he made a couple of rules errors. Do not worry. You will not be the first person to tell him that. So, just just be nice about that. It is what it is. We're doing our best. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to this episode of Tactical Debrief. I've been Josh Joshi Howard. This has been Wesley, Nemo the Fish, St. Hines. We'll see you guys all next time. Bye-bye.
bye bye.